Ben Bergquam is he's a journalist, a reporter with Real America's A Voice. And I saw this video of him down at the border, and it just makes your blood boil, to be honest with you. Like, listen, I am passionate about people who need and seek a better life. I'm not up for doing that in an illegal way. Should be legal remedies, and we should make those legal remedies efficient as is possible. I don't think we have. No matter who's in office, Republican or Democrat, I don't think that much matters. It seems like nothing much changes whoever's in charge. But nonetheless, the border's out of control. And this is not good for anyone. Not good for anybody looking for a better life, and it certainly ain't good for our country. And to see this video that I saw a couple weeks ago is just absolutely insane. And he joins us now by Zoom chat. Ben Bergquam, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Praise be to God. We're very grateful for your time this morning, being on with us. So like I was just saying, I just saw this video that you put out down at the border. And I served in the Marine Corps. So to see actual fire bases on the tops of hills, like, I know a lot of veterans, if they saw this content, they would say, oh, is that Afghanistan? Is this wartime footage from Afghanistan? Because it reminds people of that. Tell us, what did you see?
Yeah, I was down there, and thank you for having me on, guys. I was down there with Tim Foley of Arizona Border Recon South. I was in Arizona, south of a little town called Arivaca, which basically is a cartel town for all intents and purposes. You know, there's a lot of patriots down there too, and so I know there's folks in that town that would disagree with this. But you go south of that, between a little town called Sassabee and Nogales. A lot of people know Nogales, Arizona. It's where President Trump had built a long section of the wall. That wall ends after Joe Biden took office. He stopped building the construction down there, and we went down with Tim Foley of Arizona Border Recon, spent 3 days down there. And I'd been down there before, and during those times, you go to the tops of the mountains on the U.S. side, and there are cartel scouts and lookouts that watch for Border Patrol coming in and out their movements so that they can control the routes. And this is not just Arizona, this is all along the southern border. You have cartel members in America, occupying American territory and controlling the drug routes, and now the human smuggling routes, which have become as, if not more lucrative to the cartels than the drug routes. This was the first time, though, that we actually saw occupied bases. Basically, they're forward operating bases for the cartels. They are on the Mexico side, but they go right up to the border where the wall ends. And what we observed were heavily fortified, well-funded, heavily armed bunkers with Mexican nationals and members of the Sinaloa cartel. And actually, what's interesting is there are two sets of bunkers. One with stone. They've basically created exactly what as you mentioned. It looks like a wartime base. It looks like a dugout for Overwatch, and there's two of them. What's been happening? It's basically as after El Chapo left, two factions of the cartel have been warring, and it's the El Mayo and the Chapitos. It's basically El Chapo's sons and then his brother, and they've been fighting for this territory because it's so lucrative to them. And what looks like has happened is the El Mayo sect has taken out the Chapito in order to, again, that's just based on the intel that we're getting and watching some of this back and forth. So one of the sets of bases has been blown up, burned out. I couldn't tell if there were any living or any bodies down there. There were no signs of life. The other is manned by, there's at least 10 bunkers. They're covered. They've got tarps over the top, but they've got stone bases all around the bottoms. But each one of these guys are walking around with AK-47s. They occupy it 24/7, and that's one of the things people don't understand is when we're battling this, you've got Border Patrol who basically doesn't go to where I was. I was right on the edge of the border, standing. I could have walked, another 100 feet. I was in Mexico, and I didn't see a single Border Patrol. We found a group of illegal aliens as we were driving in there the first day that said they'd been waiting for 2 days, hoping that Border Patrol would show up. They were giving up, and They hadn't seen Border Patrol. And so this is an area that Tim calls it no man's land, but it feels like it no longer belongs to America. These guys control it. They operate at will. There's nothing stopping them. The Mexican government is doing absolutely nothing to stop them, and we're doing absolutely nothing to stop them. And really, as you mentioned, you were in I think you said the Marine Corps, but there's so many that have fought for this nation. I get to do what I do because of the sacrifice of so many others. And I go down there and looking at this and thinking about the fact that we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine to secure their border, but yet we have terrorist drug cartels on our border occupying it and running their drugs and their slaves at will. And that's what's happening right now. So you can see that. It was actually in our last episode of Law and Border. And you can see that at americasvoice.news or on our app, Real America's Voice News app. And we went in there and showed it. You know, these guys are in there. They've got AK-47s. They come in. And then we also have trail cam footage. Tim Foley has trail cam footage of the trails that we were actually on. And this is the worst part. So you've got the cartels, and they do what they do. They're criminal enterprises. They're actually highly sophisticated. The operations, the logistics on these operations are incredible when you think about what it goes into it. Taking people from all over the world. We have 151 different countries coming in. They're basically travel agents to the world now. They've got people coming in. I was down in Panama a couple months ago in the Darien Gap, and every country you can think of, down to Ethiopia, Africa, a country I'd never even heard of before, coming through and then coming up and all coordinated to where they're going to be heading. But on these same trail cam videos, we have armed cartel members, the same guys that were up on top of the mountains that we observed, come into America. They walk down the same trails onto these smuggling routes and up into the pickup point. So either they're going to drop off the drugs and take those further inland, or they're going to drop off the people and sometimes slaves. We actually witnessed one of the videos had a guy with his hands tied behind his back. It looked like one of the crews.
Hold that thought right there. When I was a kid, I had a friend who was full active duty Army, but he was assigned to like a National Guard unit, and they worked on the border, and they patrolled our border, locked and loaded. They cammied up. They hid in the bushes. They tracked these runners coming across the border. And then there was one occasion where they tracked somebody down and actually engaged in a firefight and got in trouble over it. That used to happen. It doesn't seem like that's happening anymore. Right before the break, you were describing how not only do they have scout snipers on our side of the border, they got bases on their side of the border. They're running across our border drugs, human trafficking, and I guess they're even their enemies, which you said somebody was handcuffed in one of these trains, and no one's to stop them. No one confronts them. Nothing.
Yeah, other than in that case down there where we're at, Tim Foley and his group. That's why he's down there. He's a private citizen. He was a veteran as well, and he saw what was going on. And so he's got a group that goes down there, and they patrol it, and they actually go up and into these places and catch some of these guys and will then turn them over to Border Patrol. But other than that, you have very few Border Patrol resources. The sad thing is, coming out of that same town, Arivaca, and really the hub is in Tucson, Arizona, you've got these organizations, leftist organizations. One of them is called No More Deaths. There's a church, Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, that's a part of it. They're called Good Samaritans, and it's the worst. You know, it's as Christ called them, synagogues of Satan. You've got organizations that pretend like they're doing good, but really all they're doing is aiding and abetting the cartels. They actually go down and put on the exact same trails that the cartels are using to smuggle their drugs and their people and their slaves. They go down and they rehydrate, they refortify, they put water, food, blankets, and we've witnessed the cartel scouts coming off the tops of the mountains, going down, resupplying, going back up. The people that are using these trails, going and resupplying. So basically, rather than actually doing anything to stop them, and at the same time, our Border Patrol resources that would be there have now been pulled off to go man places like Yuma and Eagle Pass and Del Rio, where we have these massive groups of fake asylum seekers. They've learned how to game the system because they've been taught by these same leftist NGOs like El Otro Lado, Pueblo Sin Fronteras, Centro Sin Fronteras, and sadly, the Catholic Charities. There are many organizations that have basically they use the 501c3, they use their nonprofit status, and they're aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. And I do want to qualify that too. There are a lot of good people that think that they're doing good. I talk to people all the time. I interview them, and I went to this Good Samaritan Lutheran Church, and I was asking them, and they believe that they're doing good. They're just ignorant to the fact that what they're doing is actually aiding and abetting an invasion into our country.
So, Ben, yeah, that's a really good point. Obviously, there are a lot of people who think they're doing good, but in reality, they're causing great harm. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
But what happens with the people who are turned over to the Border Patrol? I understand reading about this. Their numbers are stretched really thin. There's even division within the ranks, between the rank and file and the leadership of Border Patrol. What happens to these people? Does anything of value happen to fix the situation?
Well, that's it. It depends on the situation and who the people are. Obviously, if they are cartel members, if they've got warrants, if they have a criminal history, if they have charges in the U.S., they will be prosecuted, hopefully, in the United States. Otherwise, they hopefully will be deported. But what we're seeing and talking to I've got undercover Border Patrol contacts that send me information all the time, and we're hearing that not just so. What the people that are staying are the people that claim asylum. Basically, if you come across and you say asylum, I fear for my life, you get a golden ticket, automatic entry into our country. You get a little white piece of paper that says find an ICE agent within 60 days, turn yourself in, and we'll begin the process of going to a court within 5 to 7 years. That's how far backlogged these guys are now. But what we're being told is, what we know is Joe Biden and the left are they're dismissing most of these cases. Most of the cases of the people that had been caught under President Trump, they've dismissed almost all of those cases. Unreal. And they're in the process of doing that now. So it's a de facto amnesty, what's happening right now. And within 5 years, those people will be able to vote. The ones that Tim Foley and these guys are catching, a lot of them are simply let go. A lot of times Border Patrol doesn't have the time to go down there. They, if they don't get to them in a certain amount of time, they just have to let them go. And this goes for law enforcement as well. You've got these guys, once they get past the point where we were at, they get in a vehicle, they take off to either Tucson or Phoenix or, out to Chicago. A lot of them are going to Chicago, all over New York, everywhere. If they get caught by law enforcement doesn't have the authority most of the time. In Arizona, they can't even charge them with anything. And so they have to wait for Border Patrol. Border Patrol doesn't show up. They have to simply let them go. And that's what's happening every single day all across our country. So to put it in perspective, illegals, 2 million came across and were caught last year. Border Patrol tells me they're only catching about a third of what's actually coming across. We're on track to hit 6 million this year, by the end of this year, with last year and this year. So you're talking millions. You're talking a large city the size of Los Angeles, if you take the gotaways, that have come into our country illegally, that are all going to be a drain on our resources, our healthcare, our education system, our welfare systems, all of that. But that doesn't take into account the fact that we've already caught 66 on the terror watch list. It is suicide of a nation that we are doing. We are committing right now on our border. And the saddest part is we knew how to fix it. President Trump created the blueprint on how to fix this. The first one, we had years, Republicans and Democrats going back and forth pretending that they cared. No one really ever did anything. Republicans liked the cheap labor. Democrats wanted the easy votes. President Trump came along, like him or hate him, whatever. He actually created the policies that actually fixed this, creating the Remain in Mexico policy, holding Mexico accountable to it, and forcing people to wait in Mexico for their asylum claim. Because if you come up and you've been told that you get automatic entry, but then all of a sudden you have to wait in Mexico for a year, we know 90+% of these cases would be dismissed if they were actually adjudicated. That was the most effective policy we've ever seen. That's all we have to do. But instead of doing that, Joe Biden and the open borders leftists out of Washington, D.C. are they're incentivizing more of it.
I think every point you said could have a follow-up to it, but we have about 5 minutes left in our conversation. And I just wanted to take a step back into what you were talking about earlier about some of these organizations, some of these charities that are involved here. And could you expound upon that a little bit more? What is going on with these charities? You said most of them are like, they seem to be just trying to do good, and they're not aware that they're feeding the problem.
Or they don't see the connection to the greater problem.
Right, or they don't see the connection to the greater problem. Yeah. So what exactly is going on with some of these charities, especially for our relevance? I mean, I'm very concerned about the Catholic ones.
Yeah. And I'll say this, most of the people involved in them, the people that I've interviewed, seem to think that they're doing good. The people at the top know exactly what they're doing. This is a money-making operation. It's a globalist. There's a whole group of people around the world that don't believe in borders. It's the globalist mindset of no borders, no walls. They go around chanting no borders, no walls, no USA at all. They're radical leftist communists. And a lot of these organizations, Catholic charities including, have been infiltrated by people like this. And they make millions of dollars. And it's actually part of it is dereliction of duty by the federal government. They've created this ability. So this is something that should be run by the federal government. These operations, when people come in, we have facilities. The Border Patrol used to operate these facilities, and ICE used to operate these facilities. They've created contracts to give these to private organizations, nonprofit organizations, and that does a couple things really bad. First off, it takes away our ability to look at the books and look at the operations. So we can't go in with if it was run by a government, we could get a freedom of information, go to FOIA, and go in and find out what's exactly happening. When we ask Secretary of Mayorga right now, where these people are going, how many are being released, how many are being released into our communities, he comes and says, well, we don't really know. And the reality is he doesn't really know, because he's handed most of these people off to these NGOs. They are making the NGOs, they are awarded grants through the federal government, which is our tax dollars, to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars every single year of our tax dollars go to these operations. Probably the most egregious of them is the unaccompanied minors program. The refugee resettlement program, it's all underneath these umbrellas, and there's about 7 major organizations: Catholic charities, Lutheran charities, the Jewish charities have a similar one, and they all fall under this umbrella. And they get all this money from the government. They process these people. And during COVID, what was crazy was, as you and I were being locked down, they were operating at will. They were buying up hotels. They were putting people in these hotels and simply letting them go. The worst case, though, is these unaccompanied minors. What we're being told, I have confidential informants within some of the organizations that are telling me under President Trump, they had to do background checks on the parents as well as the people living in the household that they were going to send the children to. Now they're not doing background checks on any of them.
Wow.
And the only thing that stops them from handing these kids over to the person that says that they're their parents is if the child themselves say, I'm being abused. We're watching right now the largest human trafficking operation in, I would say, world history.
Yeah.
It is modern day slavery, and it is being done with our consent.
Yeah,
and that's the worst part about this whole thing.
It is utterly tragic. That part alone really gets my blood boiling, to think that we are standing by and watching so many people be, we're not talking about just indentured servitude. We're talking about actual slavery here. Yes. And it's happening in our communities, and we are not doing what's necessary, let alone preaching against the cooperation with coyotes. These people are giving thousands of dollars to these people who will rape and pillage them and leave them for dead in the back of a semi-trailer in San Antonio, for instance, at their earliest convenience. This is something we should never support in any way, shape, or form. But we're just about out of time right now. Ben Bergquam, Real America's Voice reporter, I'm grateful for your time today. I wish this was an easier story to take, but an important one to expose and to let people know about. God bless you, Ben. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Check them out, Real America's Voice. You can see their YouTube channel for sure. Great content there. But that's going to do it for today in hour number 1 of Catholic Drive Time. Please keep that situation in your prayers. There's so much that needs to be fixed there. But coming up after this break in the Guadalupe Radio Networks side is our fall share-a-thon. We'd love for your support, but always support your local Catholic radio station. If you want to join us for hour number 2, 9 a.m. Central, 10 Eastern, go to grnonline.com/CDT. That's grnonline.com/CDT. God bless you. God love you. We'll see you back then.